Hi, this is your Textile Entertainment TV and I'm Darya, a surface pattern designer and artist, both traditional and digital. I hope you have already watched my positive vibes video on 11 best things about textiles and textile design. If you haven't, I'm going to share a link with you guys. So today is the next logical continuation of the story. I'm going to talk about the worst aspects of textiles. So let's talk trash about textiles. I feel like most of these things can also relate to design in general, so join me even if you are a different kind of designer, a graphic designer, fashion designer or whatnot. Everybody welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell icon so you do not miss any new videos that I make. Before we begin, I want to make a disclaimer. So despite all the things that I'm going to mention today, I'm still a textile designer and I love my job. So please do not take these things as discouraging, more as food for thought. Are you ready? So let's dive in. 10 most frustrating things about textile design, from the least to the most frustrating. Number 10. Tedious routine work. I know it might surprise some people because they think that anything artwork related is super fun. You're constantly drawing, painting, coloring. How can it be boring, right? But trust me, like with any other job, there are some bits that we are definitely not looking forward to and not dying to do. Some examples include cleaning up scans in Photoshop, removing paper texture, pencil marks, your cat hairs, coffee stains, dried mosquitoes. Just kidding about the last one. The other one is color reducing and indexing complex artwork. CAD artists, I feel your pain. Another one is doing product mock-ups that can get pretty complex and intimidating, and your Photoshop starts crashing. And all Photoshop problems, there is a special place in hell for Photoshop and Photoshop issues. I don't know if you can put issues in hell, you know what I mean, right? Marketing, social media posting. Most artists would rather be locked up in a cave, if that's a thing, and just make artwork. But no, you have to plan your Instagram scheduling, Pinterest posts, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Keywording for microstock websites or print-on-demand websites. So you have to write down keywords or hashtags for your artwork so that the buyers can actually find it. Not fun, not cool, but very important and absolutely necessary. Space cleanups, textile archives organization, Pantone swatches, filing, and other intern work, especially if you work for a large company. Textile archives are dusty places with gigantic paper artwork and slices of sweaters, embroidery, and such placed in rows on hangers, in ceiling-high closets, or piling up in drawers. Very few people look forward to this kind of job, as far as I know. Long story short, it's not all fun and games. There are a lot of moving parts to a textile design business, and some things just have to be done regardless of whether you want to do it or not. Number 9. Textile design is very stereotype and sales driven. Have you ever tried purchasing a red dress in the middle of June? Good luck with that, because red is for Christmas. Are you wearing red with blue? You can't do that. That's for the 4th of July only. Bright green is for St. Patrick's Day. Orange is for Halloween. Should I go on? It's not just the color, it's also the print. You know, if leopard print is in demand, everything's going to be leopard print. And if it's not, you are never going to find anything with a beautiful leopard print. I don't know about you, but I don't always want to buy what the suppliers think I'm supposed to buy. I have a different taste. What if I don't like it? What if this color does not look good on me? What if your girls do not like bedding in pink, lavender, and aqua colors? Well, it's going to take years to change it because it keeps getting produced. Because as a former manager of mine said so cynically, but so truly, this sells. Is it only an American thing? Is it like that in other places of the world? Let me guys know in the comments. Another thing, trends induce production. Things go out of style quickly and new things get produced, which leads to textile waste, environmental pollution from transport and manufacturing, and more. Number 8. Design is taken for granted. People simply do not appreciate design. They think it's something easy and quick. You had fun painting. Why are you charging for this at all? Or why are you charging so much? People reach out to me and ask how much the designs cost. And of course they want the most intricate designs for like $50. I'm sorry, it costs much more than that. So when people hear the price, they get this so-called sticker shock, which means it's like, oh, why is it so expensive? Well, you know, it's expensive because it takes many years and many skills to get to a certain level, and even if I do it quickly, it doesn't mean that it's easy, and it doesn't mean that you can do it so quick. There is this great Instagram account called Designers Humor. There are a lot of jokes there that hit hard. Or I also recently heard a song called It Costs This Much by a musical artist called Whoa Dude. Or let me remind you also this famous story about Picasso, the great artist. So a woman approached him in a restaurant and asked him to scribble something on a napkin, and said she would be happy to pay whatever he felt it was worth. So he did a little doodle, a drawing, and said it's going to be $10,000. But you did that in 30 seconds, the woman said. No, Picasso said, it's taken me 40 years to do that. And that is so true. Thank you, Senor Picasso, for standing our ground for us artists. I do not consider myself Picasso, of course, but fair pay for textile designers, and all designers, by the way. Number 7. Textile industry is really heavy on the environment. Now let's talk some serious business here, okay? Cotton production historically has been associated with environmental pollution, waste, horrible working conditions, and slavery. If you think all these things are in the past, think again. Unfortunately, there are still countries that use child labor or very underpaid labor. When I was graduating from college in textile design, a fellow student recommended a movie to us. It's a documentary called The True Cost, and I also highly recommend watching this documentary about the consequences of fast fashion, about poor working conditions in Bangladesh and other countries that produce a lot of textiles. And if a shirt costs $4, how much does it really cost, and who is paying this price? I felt so much guilt watching the movie because I chose this industry unknowingly, not thinking about all these environmental impacts, and I felt like an accomplice. But quitting at that point wouldn't really fix anything. You know, you can't just shut down and stop producing artwork for textiles. I think it's just important to think what you can do. Work with sustainable vendors who pay attention to these things. If you are manufacturing your own product, consider producing locally, probably to minimize the impact from transportation. And choose digital printing, which is also better on the environment. Do not overbuy, and the famous reduce, reuse, recycle when possible. Number 6. Difficult people, difficult clients, bosses, buyers, and akin. When I decided to become a textile designer, I reached out to a friend of mine in Belarus who was already a graphic designer, and I said, it's interesting, we actually went to art school together as children, and we both wanted to be designers, but you know, I got scared and I changed my mind and I became an English translator, interpreter, and she went on and studied design. So about 10 years later, I decided to go back to design. So I reached out to her and said, hey, what do you think of this job? Do you like being a designer? Do you recommend being a designer? So the very first thing that she said, I never expected in my life that somebody would prevent me from creating beauty, that somebody would be in the way of me knowing how to create beautiful things. Well, I can refer you to the Designers Humor public again. There are a lot of jokes on working with difficult customers. The thing is, sometimes being a professional, you know how a design is supposed to work, what goes together, what doesn't, which font works best, right, or which artwork to choose. But in a business, there are a lot of people who are not very good at design, but they might be higher than you in rank. They make important decisions, and they will try to explain to you how design is supposed to work. So that's very frustrating, because you have to tolerate it. Sometimes you have to do what you are told, especially if you are working at a large company. Sometimes even your immediate boss might understand like you, because the immediate manager in design is also usually a designer, so a person with design education and understanding of colors and composition and all these things. But they might not be able to do anything, because if there is a buyer who acquires product for hundreds of stores across the country, the buyer has the final word, and the buyer will dictate whatever their heart desires, whatever they think is good, great, and so on. So in a corporation, the designer is usually at the bottom of the food chain, and having all these skills, having all this knowledge, you don't make decisions, and sometimes you might have to do things that don't make sense, that don't look good, that don't go together. And that's just life. If you are a freelancer, if you do not belong to a corporate setting, you also have to work with clients, with people, right? There are different ways you can work in textile design. So if you are working with a client, again, you have to deal with this pricing arguments, right? People are like, why is it so expensive? Like, I have $20. Can you do something awesome, exclusive with all the rights? So even these things will be discussed, and you have to have a lot of nerve and a lot of strength to stand through it. Another video to watch in this case is called The Expert, a comedy sketch. You can look it up here on YouTube, where people, there is this business meeting, and a client company comes to a design firm, and they say, we need to create 7 green lines, some with green ink and some with transparent, all strictly perpendicular. Just a friendly reminder that every like helps me promote this channel and motivates me put aside making cute artwork and make more videos like this one. So please hit that like button, subscribe. It is an absolutely free way of saying thank you. Now, jokes aside, let's talk seriously about number 5. It might be challenging to find a job in textile design. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's easy, especially if you are in a small city. So there are jobs that are always in demand, like nurses, waiters, doctors, teachers, lawyers, right? But not everybody needs a textile designer. Sometimes you might have to travel to a bigger city. Even with the current situation with remote working, it's not always easy to find, especially a fully paying remote job. When I worked for a large corporation, I was amazed how freelancers were found. The company relies heavily on freelancers and works a lot with them, but it was only word of mouth how freelancers were hired. You couldn't just email the company and be like, hey, I want to freelance for you guys. So you have to know someone who knows someone. That's one of the aspects. Or also, I myself, working for this company, I was a contractor all the 4 years that I worked there. It's a contract job, which means you're not getting any paid time off, you are not getting any vacation, maternity leave, any of that stuff. You are completely excluded from all those nice perks which anybody should have, right? I definitely know I signed the contract, I agreed to that, but with time it got frustrating because you do your job well, you are a good designer, but you are still not even a part of the company. You go to work every single day for 8 hours, and when there's Christmas, people are like, hey, Christmas, and you're like, damn, I'm not getting a paycheck because it's Christmas. And I know many design jobs are actually contract jobs, so it's another thing to consider. Also, it's not a highly paid job, so design jobs are usually not among the highest paid. It's not an IT position, it's not law or medicine, so that's another thing to think about. Also, whichever way you choose within the field of textile design, there is never a quick and easy path. No one can guarantee you employment, no one can guarantee you high pay, and each of the paths has its own disadvantages. For example, if you are a freelancer, you might struggle to get clients and you have to constantly promote your work on your own. No one will do it for you. If you work as an in-house designer, you are just a corporate unit, there is no recognition. Pay is steady, which is important and great, but you might not feel happy. You might want something else, something of your own. Maybe it's also not that creative as you imagined it. So definitely some things to think about. Number 4, bad execution. So you have this awesome, brilliant idea and you create your wonderful project, but then the manufacturer screws up the colors, or say you design a greeting card and it comes back to you with glitter, but glitter looks really cheap and the gold is too yellow and tacky. So you can't control everything if you rely on a vendor. If you are producing your textiles from scratch yourself, which is very rare. I do know some people who do it that way. They screen print their own fabric, or they block print their own fabric. Then yes, you can control more, but usually it's not the case. I'll give you my own example. I started a silk scarf line. Here are some of my scarves right here. So I found a vendor. It took me a while to pick a vendor, and I ordered a batch of 10 scarves to look at, the quality and printing. And in that batch of 10, there were 3 defective scarves. I was completely shocked. There was a stain from a dye, which they have overlooked. There was a crooked seam, which was like really bad. And there was a hole from a tip-in, this hole that nobody noticed. So their website states they have a 5-step quality control system, but out of 10 scarves, 3 were defective, and all the defects were different stages of production, which means their quality control sucks, okay? I have resolved the quality issues, of course. Don't think that it's something unusual. Things are never perfect, especially, the factory produces a lot of scarves and other products, and quality issues might arise. It's okay to figure them out. So if you're thinking of buying my scarf, you can totally do that, because those issues are resolved by now. Or for example, Spoonflower, a print-on-demand company, sometimes you get the swatches, and it's important to order swatches, not to go straight into yardage, because the colors might be so off. They might be neon bright and you didn't want that. And when you need neon bright colors, they do not print that way. It depends on a lot of factors. Maybe their ink was running low, I have no idea. But actually color matching is a big part of textile design, and there is always a lot of back and forth. If you're working with a factory, again, you can't control what is going on in China, for example, or even if it's a factory a couple miles away from you. Number 3, sedentary way of life with all the consequences. So when you are young and healthy and everything is great, you do not think about these things. But then after having sat for a couple years at your computer, or even standing, you're constantly in this position with your arms stretched because you are drawing on your pad, or you're also using the keyboard to press shortcuts. So I personally started developing lower arm pain and neck pain and back pain. So when I just started out as a designer, I saw some designers with arm braces, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. They were fairly young, women in their 40s, and they already had those issues. But guess what happened, you guys? A couple years later, I also started developing these issues. So it's important to work on workplace hygiene, take breaks, exercise, drink water, spare your eyes, invest in a good chair, or I do have a desk that you can lift so you can stand or sit. So it's important to change positions. My life has changed completely, especially after the pandemic, because previously when you go to the office, you drive, you walk to the parking lot, from the parking lot, and it's a lot of movement that you never really appreciated. But when the pandemic hit, we were all here in the United States, we were staying at home, we were working from home. I know many countries also did that. Some people were even afraid to go for a walk, they were so terrified of the virus. I gained a lot of weight as well because I stopped moving completely. The gyms were closed for a while. I started running for like a couple weeks, but then it didn't happen. There was a lot of uncertainty and stress, even mental health problems were also in the way for many people. So gaining weight is of course not the most important thing, but with a couple extra pounds on and without the necessary movement and with chronic pain, the neck pain and back and arm pain, it's a lot, you guys. So take care of your health, think about it, even if you are very, very young and it's not a concern for you right now. So please take care of yourselves. Number 2, being a shadow. So being a textile designer, you are normally not the person in the spotlight. It's a standard practice because textile design is not the final destination, right? We make fabric designs for fabric, and then fabric is used to produce a product. For example, you design the fabric, you draw the motifs, you make the repeat. A fashion designer buys your fabric and makes a garment. Then a celebrity wears this garment to a magazine cover photo shoot. So the credit, people see the celebrity on the cover of magazine, like, oh, she's so beautiful, right? J-Lo or whoever, Angelina Jolie. So the credit goes to the editor-in-chief, to the photographer, to the makeup artist, maybe at least they're mentioned somewhere in the magazine, to the fashion brand sometimes, right? But definitely not to the one who created the fabric. But in many cases, the print is what makes the garment, right? And if it's something personal, if it's something you created from your head, from your soul, from your emotions, of course it matters. So the fabric can also be woven, and the weaving might be very intricate, beautiful brocade, and nobody ever knows, who wove the fabric, right? Or you design the wallpaper and it gets produced by an interior design business and picked up by the set designer of a movie. Again, it appears in the movie, and I saw one day there's this textile designer and artist that I follow. She does a lot of watercolor floral work, and her wallpaper was in Bridgerton, and she posted in her stories like, my wallpaper is in Bridgerton, right? But nobody knows that unless she posted in her stories. Sometimes you can't mention that you made it. It depends on the terms of the contract and licensing. It also happened once on RuPaul's Drag Race. I watched the show regularly, so one day there was this mini challenge where they brought this spoonflower fabric wall, and the drag queens were picking the fabric and they were supposed to make something quick, and I was like, wow, that's super cool. I designed for spoonflower, my fabric was not there. And then one of the designers, spoonflower designers that I follow, also posted in her stories like, this is the day, this is the moment, my fabric was there. But again, spoonflower got all the credit, right? And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like it's completely wrong, and I don't expect people to credit me all the time. That's okay, you do your job and you move on. You make a design, you post it, and you move on, you make new designs. But sometimes it's really meaningful for you, at least, if you got paid, you are already lucky. I mean, jokes aside, but it happens that designs get ripped off. More on that later. But let me tell you something, sometimes the makers don't even want to credit you deliberately. They completely exclude you from the equation. I see it a lot, and it used to hurt me very much. So there was one time I asked a question in a design community. Little did I know what can of worms I opened, but it was a very important discussion, and I learned a lot of things, and I think I made people think about it also. People started sending me threats and like, take down your question, take down your post. I'm like, no, I'm not. I want people to think about it. So let me explain a little better. So there is Spoonflower, where designers put their fabric up, their designs up, and Spoonflower produces the fabric, and different kinds of makers purchase the fabric. They have their own fashion brands or whatever brands, pet products, pet bandanas, baby clothing is very popular too. So I asked this question in the community, when a person purchases fabric with my designs, I always send them a thank you message and ask them to tag me on Instagram, because I also need to promote my work. And if you like my fabric, if it helped you in your business, and like I said, in many cases a print really makes the dress or the product, why don't you tag me and help me out? I help you out, you help me out. So I got a lot of responses, very mixed responses, and I'm thankful for all of them, because I looked at the problem from a new perspective. So first and foremost, what people said, you should never take anybody's photos without permission, even if it's your design, your fabric design. Sorry, I didn't finish so my question was, when people buy my fabric, I see their name, and sometimes it's a business name and it's very easy to look it up. So is it okay, was my question, to repost their product made with my fabric? Why don't people tag me? That was also my question, because at that time people would literally never tag me, never mention me anywhere. So my question was, why do people not want to tag you, and is it okay to repost the product? So many people said you cannot take a photo, of course, because the photo is intellectual property of a different person, and of course you need to ask for agreement to repost. But the thing is, you can repost the stories on Instagram, it's easy enough, right? You don't need any software. Like there used to be this thing, repost, something like that, right, where it would have like a little logo that you reshared it from a different account. But with stories, like so many people wrote, people don't even ask, we constantly repost stuff. There are even accounts that rely completely on resharing content, like on YouTube or those cat videos everywhere, right? And one woman wrote to me, she said, don't even ask, just repost it, because if you ask, you give them a possibility to say no, you can't. So there was this one particularly mean woman who wrote, I don't want to tag you because I don't want my competitors to know where I get the fabric, which is a valid point, sorta, kinda. What do you guys think? Let me know. I understand that, but at the same time, there were other people who were like, I constantly tag the artist, I love sharing the artist, sometimes I'm just too busy or I forget. But so some people are completely fine with sharing the textile designer with the world. Some people are like, no. What I don't understand? If I am a competitor, if I have a business, I don't want to buy the same fabric. So that's just me, that's my opinion. I might be wrong, I get it. So like I said, I learned to let it go. I still send those thank you messages. Some people also said they are really irritated with thank you messages because it just irritates them. I was like, seriously, you're buying a beautiful print made by a person and you pretend that person doesn't exist. So you guys, I'm still a little bit mad about it. I want the world to know that there are textile designers out there that, again, this takes us back to the point of taking design for granted. Please respect the artist, pay them. If you can give them credit, do so. If you can't, that's okay. You have your commercial reasons, I understand that. But don't be like that. Don't be a pig who is annoyed by a thank you message. So I think it's important to make peace with it internally, let it go, create your artwork, post it out there. Officially, the person buys your fabric, they pay you, and they are done. Of course, they don't have to credit you. It's all these people's relationships. Like, what do you consider nice? Are you a polite person? Would you appreciate being credited or not? That's totally understandable. We're all different. We come from different places and opinions and stuff like that. Also, work with established companies and agents. If you're a textile designer, if you have an agent, the agent will represent you, will take a lot of the burden of negotiation, but it's important to get a good agent, and agents are not like looking for artists actively usually, so you have to be pretty successful and established to get a good agent. Maybe also make some special terms for your best pieces. If you're not 100% sure you want to post this on Spoonflower, don't. If you'd rather keep it for licensing and you will reach out to your favorite companies. I have a body of textile design work, and I have like layers and tiers of designs. Some of the designs I'm really proud of, and I do not want to let them go easily and for free or cheap. Like this design I really love. It's called Postal Reminiscence. I'm not going to sell it for $20, not even for $100, you guys, not even probably for $500, because it's one of my best pieces ever. So I stand my ground, I know what it's worth. But then there are other designs that are very simple. So I understand that they do not cost hundreds of dollars, I'll talk about it a little bit later as well. The best way to get all the credit for your work is to have your own product, the manufactured product. So give people something they can buy from you. Because like I said, a textile design is not the final product. Sometimes, I speak to my friends or other people and they're like, what do you do? Many people don't understand what a textile designer is. When you say, I sell greeting cards, people get that. When you say, I create textile designs for companies, most of people don't understand. So I went to a doctor recently, and you do the form and it's like, what do you do? And I wrote, I'm a textile designer. So the doctor said, so you're some kind of textile designer? Yes, I am. And you're some kind of doctor, aren't you? So I'm here to educate people about textile design. And now we're down to number one, the worst nightmare of any textile designer or any designer at all. Are you guys ready? So when art is stolen, taken advantage of, knowingly or unknowingly, deliberately or not, this is the worst nightmare of any artist. So a lot of things to consider. I'm curious, do you guys agree with my rating? Do you think these are the most 10 annoying things about textile design? Or maybe you would like rearrange places. What is more annoying? What is less annoying? Please let me know in the comments. So if you have enjoyed this video, I would appreciate your like. Please subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram, pattern_talent. Check out my Spoonflower shop. Check out my silk scarf shop. I'm currently working on expanding my different products. I will also have other stuff. Check back soon, not just the silk scarves. And remember, textiles are everywhere.